If someone had told her that jealousy would make girls throw her into the river that swallowed souls, she'd have laughed. But now, floating in water that glowed with an otherworldly light, she realized that envy wears the softest smile and speaks in the sweetest tone before it strikes. Her name was Adaeze. Though in her small village, people called her Beauty, the beauty of the gods. She never asked for that name. She never wanted attention. But somehow, from the moment she was old enough to fetch water at the stream, the world noticed her before she even noticed herself. She was her parents' only child. They weren't rich, just humble farmers with a tiny hut surrounded by cassava and yam ridges. Her mother was the kind of woman whose laughter made even a bad day feel lighter. Her father was a hard-working man who believed silence solved everything. Life wasn't perfect, but it was peaceful until other people's opinions started shaping her reality. The trouble began slowly. Whenever she walked past the village square, some girls would giggle and whisper. At first, she thought it was harmless. But one afternoon, while fetching water at the stream, she heard one of them hiss. "See how she walks like she owns the whole village, just because her face finds small." She turned to look at them. Anna, Olivia, and Banty, three girls who always moved like a pack. Their eyes carried a mix of amusement and venom. She smiled awkwardly, hoping kindness would make things better. It didn't. From that day, they made her their daily topic. It became normal to hear things like, "Beauty, fine girl, no be achievement. You think the prince will marry you because your skin shines?" Sometimes they would even mimic her walk, exaggerating her movements until the other girls burst into laughter. She'd go home pretending she didn't care. But the moment she closed her door, the tears came. Her mother noticed. She always noticed. "My daughter," Mama would say, brushing her head gently. "Even sweet honey attracts jealous flies. Don't dim your light because others can't handle it." Her words were comforting, but they didn't stop the pain. Being beautiful in a small village felt like a curse. One day, the teasing got so bad that she begged her mother to let her skip the next market day. Mama agreed, thinking rest would help. But that was when things took a darker turn. The girls started calling her names: Snake Girl, Spirit Child. They would whisper that her beauty wasn't normal, that her mother must have gone to a shrine to make her attractive. Soon, other villagers began to avoid her too. Mama was furious when she heard the rumors. "They will not destroy my child's name because of jealousy," she declared. But her father, ever the quiet one, told her to calm down. "People always talk. Let them talk." She wanted to believe him, but it's hard to ignore whispers when even children at the stream laugh behind your back. After a while, her mother stopped sending her to the market altogether. She said she didn't want her getting into fights or being humiliated. So Beauty stayed home most days, helping on the farm or cooking. But staying away only made her lonelier. She could hear the girls laughing together whenever they passed by their compound. Sometimes she'd peep through the bamboo fence, watching them chat and sing as they walked to the village square. She wanted that too. Friendship. Belonging. Then came the day everything changed. The town crier beat his gong and announced that the prince was ready to choose a wife. There would be a grand dance at the palace, and every unmarried girl in the village was invited. The whole place buzzed with excitement. Women started sewing new wrappers. Girls began practicing dance moves. Beauty didn't plan to go. She knew what waited there. Mockery. But her mother wouldn't hear of it. "You will go," Mama said firmly. "Don't let fear cage your destiny. Who knows? The gods may smile on you that day." So Beauty started preparing quietly. She found a beautiful wrapper in her mother's box. Mama even gave her one of her cowrie necklaces. "You look like a queen," Mama said, smiling proudly. But while Beauty was dreaming of a beautiful occasion, others were plotting her downfall. The girls, Anna, Olivia, and Banty, met the next morning at the stream. "Do you think Beauty will come to the dance?" Banty asked. "She better not," Olivia replied. "If she shows up, no one will even look at us. The prince will choose her instantly. Then we make sure she doesn't come," Anna said, her eyes cold. Their plan started with pretending to like her. A few days later, they came to Beauty's house, smiling from ear to ear, carrying roasted groundnuts and fruit as a peace offering. Beauty almost fainted from surprise. They said they were sorry for how they'd treated her, that they had grown up and wanted to be friends. Her mother didn't believe it for one second. She pulled her daughter aside that evening and said, "Adaeze, be careful. Snakes don't change. They just shed skin." But Beauty's heart was tired of loneliness. She wanted to believe people could change. The girls started visiting almost every day. They'd laugh with her, braid her hair, compliment her dance steps. Beauty began to trust them again, even though something in Mama's eyes said she shouldn't. One afternoon, while they were at her house, Beauty showed them the outfit she planned to wear to the dance. They gasped and said it was beautiful. "You look like a goddess," Banty said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Beauty didn't notice then, but that was the smile of a wolf admiring its prey. Later, they gathered outside, whispering to each other. "We can't let her go to that dance," Anna hissed. "But how do we stop her?" Olivia asked. "If we hurt her here, people will know it was us." Banty's eyes lit up with a terrible idea. "The Forbidden River," she whispered. "Mirioku, the River of Fire." The other two girls went silent. Everyone knew about that river. Everyone feared it. It sat at the edge of the village, hidden in a grove of ancient trees that seemed to whisper warnings. No one went there. Not to fetch water. Not to bathe. Not even to look. Because the river took things. It had taken Chief Okoro's son 20 years ago. He'd gone to prove his bravery and never returned. It had taken Mama Adaeze's daughter. She'd wandered too close while playing and was found 3 days later, bloated and lifeless, her eyes open but empty. What the river took, it never gave back. "We'll take her there," Banty continued, her voice gaining confidence. "Tell her it's a shortcut to the palace. Push her in. No one will ever find her body. The river will take her, and everyone will think she ran away or got lost in the bush." Anna and Olivia exchanged glances. It was cruel. It was evil. It was perfect. "On the day of the dance," Anna agreed. "We'll do it on the day of the dance." The morning of the dance arrived, bright and beautiful. Mama woke Beauty early. She hugged her tightly and whispered, "Don't follow them anywhere. Go to the palace alone. I had a strange dream." Beauty promised she'd be careful. Mama headed to the palace to join the other women in cooking for the occasion. A few hours later, Beauty saw the girls walking toward their compound, all dressed in bright colors, looking like flowers in full bloom. "Beauty," Olivia called, waving. "We came to walk with you. Let's take a shortcut through the bush. We don't want anyone seeing our clothes before we reach the palace." Beauty hesitated. Her mother's warning echoed in her mind. Don't tell me you're still listening to that old woman's superstitions," Anna interrupted, rolling her eyes. "We're all friends now, aren't we?" Beauty smiled weakly. Her heart said don't go, but her mind said they've changed. They walked together, laughing, talking about how handsome the prince might be. Beauty felt happy, genuinely happy for the first time in months. Then, as they got deeper into the bush, the laughter died down. The path grew narrow and dark. She noticed the birds had stopped singing. Her chest tightened. "Where are we going?" Beauty asked, her voice uncertain. "This doesn't look like the way to the palace." "It's a shortcut," Banty said quickly. "Trust us." They emerged into a clearing, and Beauty's blood ran cold. There, before them, was the Forbidden River. Mirioku. The water was dark, so dark it looked like liquid night. The surface was perfectly still, not a ripple, not a wave, as if the river itself was holding its breath. The trees around it leaned away, as if even nature wanted nothing to do with what lived in those depths. "Why are we here?" Beauty's voice trembled. "This is the Forbidden River. We shouldn't be." She didn't get to finish. Anna shoved her from behind. Beauty stumbled forward, her arms flailing, trying to catch herself. But there was nothing to catch. Nothing but air and the terrible certainty of what was coming. She hit the water. The cold was instant and absolute. It wrapped around her like a fist, squeezing the air from her lungs, pulling her down, down, down into darkness so complete it felt like being swallowed by the earth itself. She tried to scream, but water filled her mouth. She tried to swim, but something was pulling at her legs, dragging her deeper. Above her, through the distorted surface of the water, she could see the girls standing at the river's edge. Their faces were blurry, but she could hear their laughter. Cruel, satisfied, final. "Enjoy your dance, Beauty," one of them called. And then they were gone. Beauty's lungs burned. Her vision went dark at the edges. She was drowning. She was dying. "Mama," she thought desperately. "Papa, I'm sorry. I should have listened." And then, something grabbed her. Not something pulling her down. Something pulling her deeper, but gently, deliberately. She felt arms around her, strong, strange arms that didn't feel quite human. Felt herself being carried through the water at impossible speed. moving through currents that should have torn her apart, but instead seemed to part before her like curtains. The last thing she remembered before darkness claimed her completely was a voice. A woman's voice. Beautiful and terrible and ancient. You are mine now, child, and I do not give back what I claim. Then, nothing. Beauty's mother waited anxiously at the palace, but her daughter never arrived. She asked the other girls if they'd seen her, but they all claimed not to know where she was. They continued dancing and celebrating, oblivious to the worry and fear that was beginning to grip Mama's heart. But a mother knows. A mother always knows. Something is wrong, Mama whispered to her husband when he arrived. Something terrible has happened to our daughter. They reported to the king that their daughter was missing. The king grew concerned. Mama told him about the girls who had come to collect Beauty. The king summoned Anna, Banty, and Olivia. They came forward, looking nervous but defiant. Do you know where Beauty is? The king demanded. No, your majesty, Anna said smoothly. We walked part way with her, but then she said she wanted to go alone. She went into the bush and we came here. We don't know what happened to her. The king sent his guards to search the village and the surrounding areas, but they returned empty-handed. Mama wailed in grief, tears streaming down her face as she held her husband close. That night, no one in the village slept well. There was a wrongness in the air, a feeling that something precious had been lost. And in the forbidden river, in the depths where light had never reached, Beauty was learning what it meant to be claimed by something that existed before the village, before the kingdom, before memory itself. Beauty woke to beauty. That was the only way to describe it. She was lying on something soft, not sand, not stone, but something that felt like silk and water combined. Above her, the water itself seemed to glow with a soft, ethereal light that came from everywhere and nowhere. And standing above her was the most beautiful and terrifying woman Beauty had ever seen. She had skin that shimmered like fish scales in sunlight, blues and greens and silvers that shifted with every movement. Her hair floated around her head like seaweed, black as midnight and moving with a life of its own. Her eyes were completely black, no whites, no iris, just endless darkness that seemed to see through Beauty's skin straight into her soul. From her waist down, where legs should have been, was a tail. A massive, powerful tail covered in scales that gleamed like precious stones. A mermaid. A water spirit. Mami Wata. You're awake, the creature said, and her voice was like water over stones. Musical, ancient, layered with harmonics that no human throat could produce. Beauty tried to speak, but found she couldn't. Tried to breathe and realized she wasn't breathing, not in the normal way. Somehow, impossibly, she was alive underwater without air. Don't be afraid, Mami Wata said, though her smile suggested she found Beauty's fear amusing. You are in my realm now, my home, and you are my guest. Guest, Beauty finally managed to whisper. Or prisoner. The mermaid laughed, and the sound made the water ripple. That depends entirely on why you came to my river. She circled Beauty slowly, studying her the way a jeweler might study a precious stone. Tell me, child, did you come to die? Did you come to end your pain? Did you throw yourself into my waters, seeking escape? No, Beauty cried. I didn't. I was pushed. The girls, they wanted to kill me. Ah, Mami Wata stopped circling. Jealousy. How predictable. How human. She tilted her head. And what were they jealous of, I wonder? My face, Beauty said bitterly. My face that I never asked for. My beauty that's been nothing but a curse. A curse. The mermaid's laugh was colder now. Child, you know nothing of curses. You know nothing of what it means to be beautiful and powerful in a world that fears both. But you're about to learn. She swam closer, and Beauty could see that her eyes weren't just black. They held entire universes. Stars and depths and secrets that predated mankind. Those girls threw you into my river thinking I would devour you, Mami Wata said softly. Thinking I would add your bones to the collection at the bottom of my home. And perhaps I should. Perhaps that would be the kindest thing, to let you die here, peaceful and painless, and spare you from the cruelty of the surface world. Please, Beauty begged. Please don't kill me. My parents, they'll be heartbroken. They've already lost so much. Please. Mami Wata studied her for a long moment. You remind me of someone, she said finally. A girl who came to me many, many years ago. She had been cast out by her village because she was too beautiful. They said she must be a witch, that no human could look like that without dark magic. They tied stones to her feet and threw her into this very river. What happened to her? I saved her. I gave her a choice. Stay here with me and be free of human cruelty, or return to the surface with a gift that would ensure no one would ever harm her again. What did she choose? She chose to stay. She lives with me still, one of my daughters now, happy and safe in the depths. Mami Wata smiled. But you have people who love you. A mother whose tears I can feel from here. A father whose heart is breaking. So I will give you the same choice. What choice? Stay here and be safe forever. Never grow old, never suffer, never know pain again. Or, she paused dramatically. Return to the surface bearing my mark. Return transformed. Return as something more than what you were. What do you mean, transformed? Mami Wata's smile widened, showing teeth that were just a bit too sharp. I mean that if you return to the surface, you will carry my blessing. My protection. You will be more beautiful than before. So beautiful that when people look at you, they will see not just a pretty girl, but something divine. You will carry the light of the deep waters. And anyone who tries to harm you will face my wrath. Why would you do this for me? Because I am tired, Mami Wata said simply, of beautiful girls being punished for things they cannot control. Because those girls on the surface need to learn that there are consequences for cruelty. And because, her expression softened slightly. You remind me of why I first came to love humans, before they began to fear me. Beauty thought of her parents. Thought of her mother's smile, her father's quiet strength. Thought of the life she'd barely begun to live. I want to go back, she said. I want to go home. Then you shall. Mami Wata placed a hand on Beauty's forehead, and Beauty felt something shift inside her, something fundamental and irreversible. But know this, child, you will never be quite human again. You will walk on land, yes. You will eat and sleep and age, yes. But part of you will always belong to the depths now. Part of you will always be mine. I understand. Do you? The mermaid's eyes bored into hers. When those girls see you again, when they realize what they've done, when the truth comes to light, there will be consequences. Not just from the king or the village. From me. From the river. From the ancient laws that govern what happens when you try to feed an innocent to the depths. Are you prepared for that? Beauty thought of Anna, Olivia, and Banty. Thought of their cruel laughter as they pushed her. Thought of all the whispers, all the mockery, all the pain they'd caused simply because she'd been born with a face they resented. Yes, she said firmly. I'm prepared. Good. Mami Wata smiled. Then sleep now, child. When you wake, you will be on the shore. And your story will be far from over. Dyke was a hunter, the best in 3 villages. Every morning, he woke before dawn and ventured into the forests to hunt for meat that he would sell at the market and provide to the palace. He knew every path, every animal track, every secret of the bush. But he had never, in all his years, gone near the forbidden river. Until the morning, he heard singing. It was the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. A woman's voice, clear and ethereal, singing in a language he didn't recognize. It seemed to be coming from the direction of the forbidden river, which was impossible because no one went there. No one would dare. But the singing continued, and Dyke found his feet moving before his mind had given them permission. He pushed through the undergrowth and emerged at the river's edge, and what he saw made him freeze. There, lying on the bank as if the river had gently deposited her there, was a girl. She was soaking wet, her wrapper clinging to her body, her cowrie necklace still somehow around her neck. But that's not what made Dyke stare. It was her skin. It seemed to shimmer in the early morning light, like she was covered in tiny diamonds. Her hair, which should have been matted and tangled from the water, floated around her head as if she was still underwater. And her face. Dyke had seen many beautiful women in his life, but this was something else. This was beauty that didn't seem quite human, that seemed to have been borrowed from somewhere else, somewhere divine. As he watched, her eyes opened. They were normal eyes, brown, warm, human. But for just a second, just a flash, he could have sworn they were completely black. Please, she whispered. Help me. Dyke approached cautiously, half expecting her to vanish like a spirit. But she was solid and real when he reached out to help her up. Who are you? He asked. How did you survive the forbidden river? My name is Adaeze, she said. But people call me Beauty. And I survived because, she paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. Because someone down there decided I deserved to live. Dyke didn't understand, but he knew one thing. This girl needed to get to the palace. The whole village had been searching for her. Her parents were devastated. Can you walk? He asked. Beauty nodded and stood. The moment her feet touched the ground, something strange happened. The grass beneath her feet seemed to shimmer with moisture, as if the earth itself was acknowledging that she'd been touched by the water spirits. They made their way to the palace, and with every step, Dyke noticed people stopping to stare. Not with the casual interest of villagers seeing a stranger, but with awe, with wonder, with the kind of reverence people usually reserved for visiting priests or royal dignitaries. Beauty walked with her head high, and there was something different in her bearing now. Something that said she'd been to places others couldn't imagine and returned carrying secrets in her bones. When they arrived at the palace, the court was in session. The king was meeting with the elders, discussing the missing girl and what should be done. Beauty's mother was there, her eyes red from crying. Her father stood beside her, his face carved with grief. And there, in the corner, looking nervous and defiant at the same time, were Anna, Olivia, and Banty. Your Majesty, Dyke called out as he entered with Beauty. The room went silent. Every head turned. Every eye widened. Adaeze, her mother's scream echoed through the palace. She ran forward, nearly stumbling in her haste, and grabbed her daughter into an embrace so tight it seemed she'd never let go. Her father followed, tears streaming down his weathered face, the first time anyone in the village had ever seen him cry. My daughter, Mama was sobbing. My daughter, you're alive. Oh gods, you're alive. Beauty held her parents, and for a moment, the rest of the room faded away. For a moment, she was just a girl who'd been lost and was now found. But then she pulled away, and her eyes found the three girls in the corner. They had gone pale. Anna looked like she'd seen a ghost, which, in a way, she had. Olivia was trembling. Banty had tears streaming down her face, but not from joy, from terror, because they knew what they'd done, and they knew there was no way Beauty should be standing there. The Forbidden River never gave back what it took. Never. Your Majesty, Beauty said, and her voice rang clear through the palace. I have something to tell you. About what happened to me. About why I missed the dance. About why these three girls are so surprised to see me alive. The king leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Speak, child. And Beauty told them everything. She told them about the fake friendship, the careful cultivation of trust, the walk through the bush, the forbidden river. She told them how they'd pushed her into water that had claimed so many lives before hers. She told them how she should have died. With every word, the three girls shrank smaller. Anna tried to speak, to deny it, but the words wouldn't come. Olivia was sobbing openly now. Banty had collapsed to her knees, her hands clasped in desperate prayer. When Beauty finished, the silence in the room was absolute. It was the king's wife, the queen, who spoke first. Show us, she said quietly. Show us the river. Show us where this happened. And so they went. The king, the queen, the elders, Beauty's parents, the hunter, and the three accused girls. Half the village followed, drawn by the drama, by the impossibility of what they were hearing. They came to the forbidden river, and the moment they saw it, many of them stepped back in fear. The water was darker than it had been, angrier, as if it knew what had happened here and was waiting to see what justice would be served. Is this where they pushed you? The king asked. Yes, your majesty. The king turned to the three girls. Is this true? For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Banty broke. Yes, she wailed. Yes, it's true. We were jealous. We were so jealous we couldn't stand it. Everyone always looked at her, always talked about her, and we just wanted. You wanted her dead. The king finished, his voice cold as stone. We didn't think she'd actually die. Olivia cried. We thought she'd just be scared, or hurt, or... You pushed her into the forbidden river, the queen said, her voice shaking with fury. You pushed her into water that has claimed dozens of lives. You left her to drown, to be devoured, to disappear forever. And you did this because you were jealous of her face? The three girls had no answer, no defense, no excuse that could possibly be adequate. Guards, the king said quietly. Take them. The trial was held that same day. The entire village gathered in the palace courtyard to hear the king's judgment. The three girls knelt before him, their hands bound. their faces streaked with tears and dirt. Anna, Olivia, Banty, the king said, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. You have confessed to attempted murder. You took an innocent girl, a girl who had done nothing to you except exist, and tried to end her life out of jealousy. You pushed her into the forbidden river, knowing full well that no one survives those waters. That she stands here today is not due to your mercy or your restraint. It is due to the mercy of powers you don't understand and don't deserve. He paused, letting his words sink in. In a just world, I would have you thrown into that same river. Let you feel the terror Beauty felt. Let the water decide your fate as you decided hers. The three girls whimpered. But I am a king, not a murderer. So instead, I pass this judgment. You will be imprisoned for 10 years. When you are released, you will be banished from this village and every village in my kingdom. Your names will be spoken as a warning to anyone who lets jealousy poison their hearts. No one will marry you. No one will employ you. No one will speak to you. You will live the rest of your lives carrying the shame of what you tried to do. Please, Anna begged. Please, Your Majesty, we're sorry. Sorry. Beauty's mother stood up, her voice ringing with fury. You're sorry you failed. You're sorry you were caught. If my daughter had died in that river, if her body had been lost forever, would you be sorry then? Or would you be dancing at the prince's celebration, congratulating yourselves on removing your competition? The three girls had no answer. Take them away, the king said. I'm tired of looking at them. As the guards dragged them away, something strange happened. The wind picked up suddenly, carrying with it the smell of river water and ancient things. The sky, which had been clear moments before, darkened. And from the direction of the forbidden river came a sound, a laugh, low and knowing and satisfied. Mami Wata, it seemed, approved of the king's judgment. But she had her own justice to dispense. Wait, a voice said. Everyone turned. The prince stepped forward. He'd been silent throughout the trial, watching everything with dark, thoughtful eyes. Now he approached Beauty, who stood beside her parents, still shimmering slightly in the afternoon light. I never got to see you dance, he said. Beauty looked up at him, confused. Your Highness. The celebration was supposed to be about choosing a bride. But you never made it to the palace that day. You never got to dance. You never got the chance that every other girl had. He held out his hand. So dance with me now. Here, in front of everyone. Beauty glanced at her parents. Her mother was smiling through tears. Her father nodded encouragingly. She took the prince's hand. There was no music, but somehow it didn't matter. The prince led her in a simple dance, there in the palace courtyard, in front of the entire village. And as they moved, Beauty began to glow. Not metaphorically, actually glow. A soft, ethereal light emanated from her skin, growing brighter with every step. The cowrie necklace around her neck seemed to shine with inner fire. Her wrapper floated around her as if she was moving underwater, even though they were on solid ground. The village watched in awe and wonder. This was not a normal girl anymore. This was someone who had been to the depths and returned. Someone who carried the blessing of the water spirits. Someone who had been transformed by powers older than the kingdom itself. When the dance ended, the prince didn't let go of her hand. I have found my bride, he announced. The crowd erupted in cheers. Beauty's parents wept with joy. The elders nodded their approval. And somewhere, in the depths of the forbidden river, Mami Wata smiled. 3 days after the wedding announcement, something strange happened. The villagers woke to find the forbidden river had changed. The water, which had been dark and menacing for as long as anyone could remember, was now clear and blue. The trees around it, which had always leaned away, now bent toward it as if in welcome. Birds sang on its banks. Fish jumped in its waters. The river that took had become a river that gave. Slowly, cautiously, people began to approach it again. They found that the water was sweet and clean, perfect for drinking. The fish were plentiful and easy to catch. The banks were soft and safe for children to play. It was as if Mami Wata, satisfied with the justice that had been served, had lifted her curse. Or perhaps she'd never cursed the river at all. Perhaps she'd only been waiting for humans to understand that beauty is not a crime, that jealousy is poison, that cruelty has consequences. Beauty became princess and eventually queen. She ruled with the wisdom of someone who had seen both the best and worst of human nature. She was known for her mercy, but also for her fierce protection of those who were bullied or ostracized for things they couldn't control. She never forgot what she'd learned in the depths. And sometimes, on quiet nights, she would walk to the river and sit on its banks. She would trail her fingers in the water and feel the presence of the one who had saved her. The ancient one. The beautiful and terrible one. The one who had given her a second chance. "Thank you," she would whisper. And though she never heard a response, she always felt a gentle current wrap around her fingers, like a hand squeezing hers in acknowledgement, like a promise that she was still protected, like a reminder that some bonds transcend the boundary between the human world and the spiritual one. The three girls served their sentence and were released after 10 years. They left the kingdom as ordered and were never heard from again. Some said they'd gone to distant cities and built new lives. Others said they'd wandered into the forest and disappeared. But there was one rumor, whispered by the old women who knew the old stories, that the three girls, desperate and hungry after their banishment, had tried to petition Mami Wata herself, that they'd gone to another river in another kingdom, a river where the water spirit was said to grant wishes, that they'd waded into the water and begged for forgiveness, for beauty, for a second chance, and that the water spirit had granted their wish by pulling them down into the depths and keeping them there forever. Whether that was true or just a story meant to frighten jealous girls into better behavior, no one could say for certain. But Beauty believed it, because she knew that Mami Wata kept her promises. All of them.